I'd like to welcome everyone to our midweek meeting. We're so happy to have everyone here in attendance, and we get the privilege to get a chance to meet together and to worship our God Jehovah together this evening. To begin with this evening, we'd like to open with a word of prayer and also our first opening song. Our song chosen this evening is song number 97 with the theme, Life Depends on God's Word, and then we'll have an opening prayer by Brother Joel Kostachek. Thank you, Brother Kostachek. We have an excellent meeting in store tonight. Lots of spiritual food that's been prepared faithfully by the governing body. Tonight we get to dig into some excellent highlights from Proverbs 23, the scriptures on which this meeting is based on. And if you could think of maybe a word that describes and kind of encapsulates what we're going to talk about this evening, it might be the word discernment. You're going to see that word discernment flow in and out of our meeting and what that means for us, particularly in our first point this evening in our Treasures from God's Word regarding the wise principles for the use of alcohol. How is discernment used in that theme? Look for that. Also, in our Apply Yourself to the Field Ministry portion of our meeting, we're going to get to see an example of making disciples, a Bible study in progress, where that student is going to have to navigate helping their Bible student to understand the discernment in regarding helping them break free from an unscriptural habit. In regarding to our Living as Christians portion of the meeting, the theme, should I serve alcohol or not? Specifically in applying to a social gathering, very interesting theme and wonderful video and discussion to follow. Lots to look forward to this evening, so we would like to begin by turning our attention to Brother Jordan Clagg, who's going to develop the theme, Wise Principles for the Use of Alcohol.
As a person who drinks alcohol, when I read through Proverbs 23, I got that deer in the headlight look kind of on my face. Why is that? Well, it's because the Bible is really meant to do that for us, isn't it? No matter what we choose to do in life, the Bible helps us to reflect upon our own conduct and make sure that the way we're living is in line with God's will. And so we get to explore the subject of the use of alcohol with that lens. I thought the theme was just outstandingly put together. If you'll go back through that with me, it's wise principles for the use of alcohol. Not wise laws, strict laws, no, but wise guiding thoughts for the use of alcohol. But the real key word in that theme is the active word use. That's interesting to me because when I think about alcohol, I think of it as a beverage to go along with something. Maybe you do too. I don't think about using it because when you use something, you take, you hold, you deploy something as a means to accomplish a purpose. Now, when you think about alcohol that way, ask yourself, why do I use alcohol? There's many good reasons. Jehovah laid them out for us. You have medicinal purposes. Even Paul told Timothy to use wine for that reason. The Israelites used wine in their worship to God. They would even offer it as a drink offering. Jehovah used wine as a representation of his son's blood. But that's the one that stands out to me is the one in Ecclesiastes 10:19, which says, wine makes life enjoyable. So how could we use wine appropriately? As a means to rejoice or any of the other things. But when we talk about the word use, we can't ignore the other word that's so closely associated with it, which is abuse or abuse, misuse something. And that's what we're going to be cautioned against tonight. How do we avoid misusing alcohol? And if we might use alcohol to rejoice, misusing it might be something like over-drinking, drinking to get drunk, using it to deal with stress. Of course, there's a number of reasons why personally we might need to consider it that way. But why don't we look at our first little bit of caution here in Proverbs 23 and verse 20. The first thing we should look out for. 23 and verse 20 says, do not be among those who drink too much wine, among those who gorge themselves on meat. For a drunkard and a glutton will come to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe one with rags. What's our first little point of caution there? Don't be among those who drink too much wine. Well, if we shouldn't hang out with folks like that, we probably shouldn't be one either. And so drinking too much wine is obviously abusing, or alcohol abusing, God's gift there. But there's a little bit of guidelines that we can pick up here in the following verses, because what is good for one person is not always good for another person. Some individuals choose not to even drink one drink. Others can tolerate a different amount. And that varies according to who you are and your circumstances. So how do you know what's too much? Let's look, start there in verse 29. We'll read to the end of the chapter. It says, "Who has woe? Who has uneasiness? Who has quarrels? Who has complaints? Who has wounds for no reason? Who has bleary eyes? Those lingering long over wine, those searching out mixed wine. Do not look at the wine's red color as it sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly. For in the end, it bites like a serpent, and it secretes poison like a viper. Your eyes will see strange things, and your heart will speak perverse things. And you will be like one lying down in the middle of a sea, and like one lying at the top of a ship's mast. And you will say, 'They have struck me, but I did not feel it. They beat me, but I did not know it. When will I wake up? I need another drink.'" Just interesting how it leaves that last phrase there, right? And so what we have here are basically symptoms of a person who's drank too much. And so if we ever find ourselves in using alcohol feeling this way, well, that's an indication that we're possibly abusing alcohol. But it's not just about, when it's talking about too much, just about the quantity in one evening. Notice verse 31 or 30. It says that we have to be careful about lingering long over wine. Now, what kind of an image does that give you in your head? It's just picturing of someone that's constantly with it. Maybe it's something that they do daily, or it's for the majority of the day. Lingering long over wine would be an indication that perhaps we're abusing alcohol. And so that's something that we can watch out for. The other thing that we should be careful about is right back there in 31, and it's unique to us in our time period. It's different, I should say, for us in our time period, and we'll go into that in a second. Verse 31 says, "Do not look at the wine's red color as it sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly." So one thing, if we want to avoid abusing wine, is to guard our perception of it. Like we talk about it, not as a beverage, but as a means to an end. And perception is really difficult for us because we're bombarded with peer pressure. Not just the youth at a gathering. In 2023, Anheuser-Busch reportedly spent $7 billion in sales and advertising. I mean, that's greater than many countries' gross domestic product, but $7 billion just on advertising from one alcohol manufacturer. There's more variety and availability in alcohol than ever before. And the programming that we see is designed to push us to consume that. And so we have to take caution there in how we perceive wine. Of course, even how we perceive alcohol over time changes. As we age, our body differs, our chemistry changes, and our ability to use alcohol changes. Or maybe you're a single person that only chooses to use alcohol in a social environment. And now you're newly married, and now your best friend is your social environment. And so you'll have to watch how frequently you consume alcohol in that case. These are all really good reminders for us to analyze ourselves. Perhaps that's in the photo, in the artwork. That's what our sister's doing. Maybe she's having to make a choice here. Perhaps she's read these very same verses. She's thought about maybe how her life has changed or how she's using alcohol, now having to consider, is it a friend or a foe? And maybe we find ourselves in that situation too, but the goal of our part this evening is no matter how we choose to view alcohol, that as we do, we use wise principles from God's word to use alcohol properly.
Brother Clegg, appreciate you handling that part so deftly for us. Very much appreciated. We'll now give our attention to Brother Finn Bogues, who will handle our spiritual gems for this evening.
Gems for this week, friends. We'll start things off by asking our first question: what is the difference between gluttony and obesity? Sister Wynne.
The difference between gluttony and obesity is the difference between a physical condition and a mental attitude. Gluttony is linked to greedy or excessive indulgence, and obesity can be an inherited condition.
Thank you. Well, that covered it pretty nicely. We're going to move on to our next question. What spiritual gems from this week's Bible reading would you like to share? My sister here, please.
I love verse 17, let your heart not envy sinners, because it's so easy to be at work or school and so just got the newest technology or car or house, and it's so easy to just, well, if I just go full time or if I work more, or if I study harder, I can be like them. But really keeping Jehovah's Day in mind is what's really going to lead us to happiness.
Thank you. Sister St. Hill, please.
Verse 7 reads, according to the Rotherham translation, just as one has a thought in his own mind, so he is. The 1953 Watchtower said, so what a poor person thinks, says, and does is largely governed by his mind. To change himself, to remold himself, he must change his thinking, for as he thinks, he is. To replace their old thinking, circuits of propaganda, schemes, etc., with new circuits built in with right thinking and acts recommended by Jehovah through his word and the slave class. So putting on the new personality, now we reflect Jehovah and give honor to him with our life.
Thank you. Brother Morales.
Verse 17 said, let your heart not envy sinners, but be in fear of Jehovah all day long. We see people out in the world, and it really just looks like they're having so much fun. They're partying, they're drinking, they're doing whatever they're doing. And that's what Satan wants us to think. But he's really hiding all the negative effects that it has on them and how they partake of the world. The real joy that we get is from fearing and from obeying Jehovah, like the scripture said. And we will really live the best life possible without envying those who are having all their fun.
Good point. Thank you. My little brother here.
We should listen to our mother and our father because they gave us birth. And also, we should listen to Jehovah and do what he says from the Bible because he also gave us birth. He gave our parents the ability to give birth, and he also gave birth to our parents. So we should listen to him.
Thank you. Sister Ward.
I liked verse 10 where it says, do not move an ancient boundary marker. In some research, it mentioned that a person's land was often how they made their living. And so if a person were to move their boundary marker, it was almost a subtle way of stealing from them. And we see how Jehovah felt about it in verse 11. He called himself their defender and that he would take up their case against you. So that just goes to show that Jehovah is not only a God of law, but he's a God of principle. And so if we're trying to find a way to toe the line between right and wrong, he takes that very seriously.
Good reminder. Brother Roga.
in those same set of verses, it also talks about looking after the fatherless. And it gives us a good understanding of just how Jehovah views these ones that might be more misfortunate than others. And so if he's going to be their defender, it helps us to appreciate how we would want to look after these ones as well.
Thank you. This sister here.
I like 22 as well because it makes you think about your viewpoint of your mom and your daddy. You can either view them as a prison guard or you can view them as a lifeguard, but that's up to you.
It's true, thank you. My brother towards the back there.
I enjoyed verse 9. It reminds us to not speak in the ears of the stupid one, or it's a cross-reference. Scripture shows to throw our pearls before swine. We've probably all had that experience, but also we might ask ourselves, well, where do these people come from? And we can make sure that we're not one of those people. If we use this, I wanted to use this as a personal check, because if we get a bit of wisdom from Jehovah, whether it's something we hear or when we're doing our personal Bible reading, and we might not say something, but if we figuratively roll our eyes and say, I don't know about that, we're in a sense showing we're despising that wisdom. So personally, I want to make sure that if I were to catch that kind of attitude, we correct that. And it's also so nice of Jehovah that he gives us this internal check to make sure that as we listen to his word, we have the right attitude and really benefit from what he gives us.
Thank you. Brother Kostacek.
Jehovah loves hard workers. In verse 4, he warns us there. He says, do not wear yourselves out to gain wealth. So sometimes we might have a perspective, okay, Jehovah wants me to work hard. I'll work as hard as it takes. But if we're wearing ourselves out, it gives us advice. It says stop and show understanding. And the study note there says cease from your own understanding. So maybe sitting back for a second, praying, seeing what Jehovah could really do for us. And this way we don't have to wear ourselves out, even though we would work hard.
Thank you. Sister Gustafson.
Verse 23 urges us to buy truth, but we may ask ourselves, if Jehovah gives the truth freely, why would we need to buy it? Well, buying can simply mean to give away or sacrifice something in exchange for another thing. So in our case, it would be our time and energy, sometimes material advantages, some unscriptural ideologies, and always appreciating the priceless value of Jehovah's wisdom will remind us never to sell it or give it up in exchange for anything else.
Thank you. My sister there. Yeah, that one.
6 and 7 talk about a stingy person and how they may say one thing to you, but really they mean another. It says they might tell you to eat and drink, but they don't really mean it. Or the footnote says his heart is not with you. So it shows that stinginess has more to do with the heart than it does with the wallet. And so it made me think of, in what ways might I be stingy? It may not be with my money, but maybe with my time or my mental energy for other people. But I want my heart to be with other people. Therefore, I need to work on not being stingy in that way.
Yeah, thank you. Sister Rodriguez.
I appreciated verse 15 because there Jehovah humbly uses human organs to describe his happiness and our effect on him. So his deepest feelings and emotions are affected by our actions. And it really just brings out the greatness of our privilege that we have to share in supporting his sovereignty, whether that's in a small way or a large way.
My sister here.
Yeah, I loved 23:16. My innermost being will find joy when your lips speak what is right. And I highlighted a 2017 Watchtower about how important our ministry is. Sometimes we can become self-absorbed and self-involved. And in many cases, it can be in-tuned or tied to how much we're giving of ourselves in our ministry or even to the congregation. So it's so important that when we do have feelings wondering how can we truly find happiness, where can we alleviate maybe feelings of depression, it's really important to remember to look outward to our brothers and sisters, to the global community in our ministry, as opposed to always looking inward, trying to delve into selfish desires.
Very true. Thank you. Sister Medina.
Verse 1 helps us to be discerning, stay humble, and don't let flattery or surface kindness cloud our judgment, because look at what happened with Haman. He thought he was the king's favorite at the feast, but it all fell apart for him at the end.
Thank you. That's all the time we have, friends. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you, Brother Burgess, and thank you all your participants for your excellent comments. We very much appreciated your excellent expressions of faith. We'll now give our attention to our Bible reading, which will be read by Brother Sayel Flay, and he will be reading Proverbs chapter 23, verses 1 through 24. Brother Flay.
When you sit down to eat with a king, carefully consider what is before you. Put a knife to your throat if you have a large appetite. Do not crave his delicacies, for it is deceptive food. Do not wear yourself out to gain wealth. Stop and show understanding. When you cast your eyes on it, it is not there, for it will surely sprout wings like an eagle and fly off to the sky. Do not eat the food of a stingy person. Do not crave his delicacies, for he is like the wine keeping an account. Eat and drink, he says to you, but he does not mean it. You will vomit up the morsels you have eaten, and will have wasted your compliments. Do not speak in the ears of the stupid one, for he will despise the wisdom of your word. Do not move an ancient boundary marker, or encroach on the field of the fatherless, for their defender is strong. He will take up their cause against you. Apply your heart to discipline, and your ears to the saying of knowledge. Do not hold back discipline from a boy. If you strike him with the rod, he will not die. With the rod, you should strike him in order to save him from the grave. My son, if your heart becomes wise, then my own heart will rejoice. My innermost being will find joy when your lips speak what is right. Let your heart not envy sinners, but be in the fear of Jehovah all day long. For then you will have a future, and your hope won't be cut off. Listen, my son, and become wise, and direct your heart in the right way. Do not be among those who drink too much wine, among who gorge themselves on meat. For a drunkard and a glutton will come to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe one with rags. Listen to your father who caused your birth, and do not despise your mother just because she has grown old. Buy truth and never sell it. Also wisdom, discipline, and understanding. The father of a righteous one will surely be joyful. Whoever fathers a wise son will rejoice in him.
Well done, my young brother. You did such an excellent job. Thank you so much for taking care of that assignment for us tonight, Sayel. You were working on study point number 5 in our teaching brochure, Accurate Reading. And I thought you did a very good job on doing that. I loved especially, too, how along with your good reading, you made good audience contact. That really helps in getting our voice up and projecting out to the audience. And it's a lot of people. So you did a great job despite the nerves. So we're really appreciative for the hard work you did. We look forward to your next reading very, very much. So we'll go ahead and turn our attention to our first part on the Apply Yourself to the Field Ministry portion of our meeting. In our Starting a Conversation, we have Sister Cora Burgess and Latona Hawkins.
Thank you so much. You know, I just can't believe I locked my keys and my phone in the car. So embarrassing. I don't know what I was thinking. But my brother did say he'll be here in about 10 minutes.
I'm glad you got a hold of him. Please don't feel embarrassed. The same thing has happened to me several times, actually. So I understand how you feel. You know, this neighborhood is kind of... do you mind if I wait with you until your brother comes? I'd hate to be on my own in this situation.
Oh, you know what? That's so nice of you, and I'm grateful. What's my Savior's name?
I'm Cora.
Cora. Hi, I'm Tony. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. Yeah. You know what they say. 2 is better than 1.
They? Who says that? I don't think I've ever heard that.
It's a quote from the Bible.
The Bible? Mm-hmm. Do people still read that these days?
Well, I know several people that do. I try to read a little bit every day.
Well, I'm surprised. You know, with the internet, Google, TikTok, you know, the Bible, it just never appealed to me with all its judgment and condemnation.
You know, Tony, I would feel the same way as you, actually. But I found out that the Bible has been seriously misrepresented throughout history. In fact, a lot of popular teachings that are said to come from the Bible are not supported by it. Did you know that?
No, like what?
Well, what would you say if we let the Bible speak for itself? If you don't mind my asking, what are some things that you've heard about the Bible or God that you take issue with? Maybe they weren't a Bible teaching at all.
Well, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think I'm really up to discussing my beliefs. I'm not real comfortable with that.
Oh, okay. I can totally respect your feelings. Tony, you're right. I do really care about people and I want to help in any way that I can, but I don't want to make you uncomfortable. So tell me, do you shop here often? I love their produce.
You're funny, and very quick on your feet. But yeah, I like this place too.
Okay, good.
Excellent job, sisters. Thank you so much for that wonderful demonstration. Thank you, Sister Burgess, for handling that so appropriately. You're working on, from our Love People brochure, section lesson 3 on kindness, number 5, being helpful. There's no one in this room who's going to think that you're not kind. That was such a wonderful way to handle that little section there, offering to wait with her. And then even when she showed some resistance to trying to start up a conversation, you weren't deterred, you maintained your empathy and your warmth, and it shone through and offered the way for a future witness. That was an excellent way to demonstrate that. Thank you so much for showing us that. We're going to follow up with our next demonstration in the house-to-house, offering how to demonstrate a Bible study, and this will be handled by Sister Melissa Colmel and her assistant, Brianna Ward.
Hello again. I know you weren't expecting me, but I was here like a week or so ago, and you had just had a loss in your family. I'm so sorry, but I couldn't get you off my mind, and I wanted to bring you a little gift.
Wow, that is so sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to come back because I know how hard it can be losing someone.
Yeah, honestly, it has been really tough, especially because this was really unexpected, and I've just been kind of asking myself, what's the point of it all?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Death is hard no matter when it happens, but especially when it's unexpected. But when I was here last time, I actually was in the neighborhood sharing with my neighbors a message of hope. Could I share something with you?
Absolutely. I could really use some hope right now.
Well, it's actually from a Bible study aid that I have here on my phone. Can I share?
Sure.
And actually, the second chapter right there is under the title, The Bible Gives Hope. And I know many are skeptical about the Bible, like, is it even relatable today? Like, does it have good information? But would you mind reading that first introductory paragraph?
Sure. It says, people around the world deal with problems that cause them to feel sadness, anxiety, and even pain. Have you ever faced a situation that made you feel those things? Perhaps you are suffering from an illness or because someone you love has died. You may ask yourself, will life get any better? The Bible provides a reassuring answer to that question. Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. So what's the answer?
Well, let's see. In the second paragraph, it actually is entitled, How the Bible Gives Hope. Do you want to continue reading?
Sure. It says, the Bible not only explains why the world is filled with problems, but also shares the good news that these problems are temporary and will soon be gone. The Bible's promises can give you a future and a hope. Those promises help us to cope with our present problems, to have a positive attitude, and to find lasting happiness.
Do you see in that paragraph where it says to read the full version of the quoted scripture at Jeremiah 29, 11, and 12? Let's actually do that. It's actually one of my personal favorite scriptures. It's helped me through a lot of dark times. It's God actually giving us each a promise personally. So if you tap on it, it'll show up, and I'll read it. It says, For I will know the thoughts that I am thinking towards you, declares Jehovah, thoughts of peace and not of calamity, to give you a future and a hope. And you will call me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you.
That is a beautiful verse, but honestly, with the way the world is right now, I don't really see our future as being positive.
That is understandable with everything that's going on today. But the next section actually goes into what type of future the Bible promises and how it's different from what we see today. Do you want to continue?
Okay, it says, the Bible describes a future time when death will be no more. Neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain be anymore. The problems that can make life seem hopeless today, such as poverty, injustice, sickness, and death, will no longer exist. The Bible promises that humans will be able to enjoy life forever in a paradise on earth.
Mm-hmm. The quoted scripture there at Revelation 21:3-4 is another promise directly from God. And it says, "He will wipe out every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more. Neither will mourning, nor outcry, nor pain be any more. The former things have passed away."
No more death? I would love that, but like I said, I don't see how that's possible.
I understand. It's hard to believe something without getting any evidence. Like, you wouldn't trust just any health tip online, any influencer you see. You'd want to make sure it actually comes from a reliable source, like a doctor. The Bible invites us to do the same. Could you read section 3?
It says, many people hope for good things to happen, but they cannot be sure that their hope will be fulfilled. What the Bible promises is different. We can build up our trust in what it says by carefully examining the scriptures. As you study the Bible, you will be able to decide for yourself whether you can believe what it says about the future. That's reassuring. I would definitely rather investigate than just blindly hope.
Exactly. And these lessons in this brochure guide us to do just that. I won't keep you too long because I know you weren't expecting me, but if you're open to it, I'd love to come back and finish the rest of that chapter with you. And it shows you what the Bible says about the promised future and how it's actually bringing people comfort today.
Okay, well, I took the rest of this week off from college to just kind of help my mom with things. But after that, I'll only be free on the weekends.
Okay.
So would you be able to come back tomorrow?
Yes, of course.
Thank you very, very much, Sister Comel and Sister Ward. I'm a little biased as to giving something to share on this, but you did such an outstanding job. The lesson you were demonstrating tonight was taken out of our Love People brochure on the subject of empathy, and then the subpoint number 5, sharing information that addresses the householder's needs or his needs. You did such a fantastic job of following that theme of practicality that we saw in the public witnessing section, following up by bringing such a thoughtful gesture, and then on top of that, being familiar enough with our teaching toolbox to discern how her needs needed to be addressed, and then showing her the appropriate portion of our Enjoy Life Forever brochure and navigating the initial parts of a Bible study. Thank you for making that appear so seamless. Thank you so much for that. We'll go ahead and continue on with our applying ourselves to the field ministry with our final part. Encourage your student who is struggling to break free from an unscriptural habit, handled by Brother Vishelia and Brother Meehan.
Hey, Andy, I did the research you suggested. I read all of chapter 43 in the Enjoy Life book.
Oh, great, Bill. Thank you for that. Let's jump ahead to that chapter. It's about the use of alcohol, just as the beginning part of the material for our study tonight. I assigned you this part to read because, I noticed something, that you had missed the recent Sunday meeting, and I was just wondering, did that have anything to do with your brother's big wedding?
I'm sorry, Andy, I did miss the meeting. I was just having too much fun. My brother had a live band, 2 big buffet lines, and he told me he spent $5,000 on beer and spirits that night. Well, I got into it, and the next day I was just trying to sleep through a hangover.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Bill, and expressing yourself so freely. I appreciate that you see that there's perhaps need to work on this. So I think chapter 43 in the Enjoy Life book will really be a help for us. Let's turn there in the material. Being what you mentioned was this big wedding was a little bit of a setback. Perhaps out of all the scriptures that are here, particularly in the Dig Deeper section, let's go to Romans 13:13. And when you find that, Bill, would you please read 13:13, but just the A portion?
Okay. It says, "Let us walk decently as in the daytime, not in wild parties and drunkenness."
There it is. It's almost like a proverb. Do this, don't do that. And really the key theme to pull out of this are those two words, walk decently. And this really gives us advice for a lot of areas in life that we as Christians are interested in always walking decently. Now, in point 4, there's a list of bullet points about deciding when we might drink. In those bullet points, do you see anything that best applies to this situation?
See, you're going to drive, doctor. The fourth bullet point, you have trouble controlling the amount you drink.
That's a very good piece of self-knowledge, Bill. Let's discuss the picture that's here. Notice the nice gathering that's being held. Might be a wedding, might not. How does this compare with what was happening at your brother's wedding?
Well, it shows that you can enjoy alcohol, but in the right setting. Everyone here is walking decently. It's not a wild party. There's no drunkenness. Andy, I must admit that controlling my drinking is a real challenge. And it often bothers me how Jehovah feels when I'm in a drunken state.
Bill, it's so good that you're aware of the problem. And the help is to be found in God's Word. And even in this picture that's part of this chapter, do you notice that one person in the picture has refused to drink? Why do you think he's doing that?
Yeah, I see that. I remember in the bullet points, it says that the person could have refused the drink because he might be the designated driver, or maybe he has a drinking problem in the past and now he's setting limits for himself.
He's interested in walking decently. So, do you think this discussion might be of some help for you?
Andy, I don't think I'm addicted to alcohol, but I now see that my problem is I lose control of my drinking. I think my problem could be avoided by a little advanced planning.
What do you mean by that?
Well, next time there's a gathering, a party, I need to ask questions like, who's going to be there? Is there going to be an open bar? Perhaps, is there someone there that might pressure me to overdrink? You know, my whole family loves to drink, so that's going to be a lot of pressure.
Bill, you've made an excellent analysis of this. You've done some self-examination. We have this Bible verse now that we can work with, Romans 13:13. We have approaching Jehovah in prayer, which we can do together. We have the whole congregation is interested in us and in our welfare. So thanks very much for discussing that with me. Let's go on to the rest of our lesson.
Thank you very, very much, Brother Vishelia and Brother Mian. It can be a difficult thing, uncomfortable even, to handle that kind of a sensitive subject with a Bible student when they come to us with either something that's happened, something we want to try and help them with. And I appreciate how when you developed kind of the point in the lesson 12 of our Love People brochure under courage, point number 4, helping to identify obstacles to help our student progress in overcoming those obstacles. I really appreciate how you lovingly and kindly helped your student navigate, helping them see the Bible principles involved, and then maybe seeing some practical steps leading them to conclusions, how they can avoid making the same mistake in the future. It's a condensed form of things we might deal with in our ministry, but the principles were rock solid. Thank you very much, Brother Vishelia. We'll go ahead and conclude this portion of our meeting and get into our Living as Christians portion of our meeting by standing together and singing song number 35, Make Sure of the More Important Things. Our meeting, and to begin with, Brother Vito Tuosto will develop our discussion, should I serve alcohol or not?
Social gatherings, be it small or large, such as a wedding reception, they require the host to make a personal decision. Should I serve alcohol or not? Now, how should this decision be made? This is demonstrated by what's depicted on the screen. We see an engaged couple planning a wedding reception. The tablet is displaying bottles of wine, alcohol. On the table, there's an open Bible. This indicates that prior to deciding whether to serve alcohol or not, they are carefully considering Bible principles. Now, would you like to see an example of how to reason on Bible principles? Let's watch the following video.
What Bible principles could help a couple to decide whether to serve alcohol at their wedding? So what principles and scriptures do you think would help them make a balanced decision? Again, you're welcome to pause the program, and if you'd like to write down what comes to mind or to research something. Now, your list probably has some of these principles. At John chapter 2 and verse 9, Jesus made wine for a wedding. However, 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 10 says that drunkards will not inherit the kingdom. And 1 Corinthians 10, 31 and 32 says, whether you're eating or drinking, do all things for God's glory, and to keep from becoming causes for stumbling. Now, it doesn't seem that any one principle provides the answer. The couple could simply say, well, Jesus served wine at a wedding, so can we too. However, there's really more to it than that, isn't there? It's clear that a balance of all these Bible principles is needed. Will relatives or others be there who might be prone to overdrinking? Would serving alcohol bother the conscience of many present because of local customs and feelings about alcohol? It's often the case when making decisions that we need to balance several Bible principles, not taking any one principle solely on its own merit. Jehovah expects us to use our power of reason to balance Bible principles and make good decisions. Ecclesiastes chapter 7 and verses 16 through 18 gives us good advice about being balanced. Do not be overly righteous, nor show yourself excessively wise. Why should you bring ruin to yourself? Do not be excessively wicked, nor be foolish. Why should you die before your time? It is best to grasp one warning without letting go of the other. For the one who fears God will heed them both. How true. Such balance between extremes is often necessary when we apply Bible principles. We need to heed them both, so to speak. We need to balance all the Bible principles so we can come to the decision that would show love of God and love of neighbor.
The principles considered in the video were applied to wedding receptions. So let's briefly review them. First, the question, what principle is embodied in what's recorded at John chapter 2 and verse 9? Brother Alex Lopez, please.
Well, John 2:9 details Jesus' first miracle where he turned water into wine at a wedding reception. So based on this principle, a host may decide it is okay to serve alcohol. Jesus knew that at this occasion it was appropriate, and to that end, he also did not make a stingy amount. It was a very large amount.
Very fine, thanks. Now, another principle is stated in 1 Corinthians 6:10. Drunkards will not inherit God's kingdom. Now, why is it important for hosts to consider this principle? Brother Morales, please.
This scripture shows us just how serious Jehovah considers the matter of drunkenness. So if we're hosting a wedding reception or other social gathering, concern not just for ourselves, but those who will attend, will move us to consider whether serving alcohol puts anyone at risk for displeasing Jehovah. And we might think of it like this: if drunkenness marks the line of seriously displeasing Jehovah, Our decisions about alcohol should show that we're striving to keep ourselves and others far from that line.
Good reasoning, Brother Morales, appreciated. Now, 1 Corinthians 10:31 and 32 reads in part, whether you are eating or drinking or do all things for God's glory and keep from becoming causes for stumbling. Now, how can the host reason on the principles in these verses? Sister Fisher, please.
Well, the principle there to do all things for God's glory means in the planning process, the host will consider just how much alcohol to offer, of course, a modest amount, and even make sure other appealing options are available. So this will help ensure that nothing at the gathering detracts from Jehovah.
Excellent comment. And we'll keep it in the family. Brother Fisher.
And the other principle there, the idea of not stumbling others. So we consider our guests in the context of the local customs that may be in our area, or would there be any negative feelings felt by any if we chose to serve alcohol? So if we balance this principle, it helps us to demonstrate love of neighbor.
Excellent. Now, the last question, we'll consider that one, asks, in order to make good decisions, why must we use our power of reason to balance various Bible principles? The simple answer, it's because gatherings differ as to circumstances and other factors. So to balance the various principles requires using our thinking ability and reasoning power. Now, what's the takeaway lesson? It's this. When deciding to serve alcohol or not at social gatherings, the decision should be based on a balanced application of various Bible principles. When the host does this, it shows love for God and love for neighbor.
Thank you, Brother Tuosto. Very much appreciate your handling of that information. We now get to watch our 2025 Governing Body Update number 4. We'll turn our attention to the videos.
Welcome, dear brothers and sisters, to our program. Today, we'll consider how we can use Bible principles to make good decisions. But first, let's enjoy some encouraging updates. We're pleased to share news about 2 recent special conventions. On the weekend of May 23 through 25, 2025, a special convention was held in Santa Cruz, Bolivia. This was the largest theocratic event ever held in Bolivia. Over 1,900 delegates came from some 10 countries. The peak attendance was 19,233, and 277 got baptized. Then, on June 13 through 15, a special convention was held in Tirana, Albania. The peak attendance was 8,987, including nearly 2,000 delegates from 17 countries. This was the largest convention of Jehovah's Witnesses ever held in Albania, and 83 were baptized. What a delight to see Jehovah's people sharing together in pure worship. These occasions remind us of the words of Psalm 133:1. Look, how good and how pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. But now let's discuss how we as Christians can make wise decisions using Bible principles rather than relying on a list of rules. Consider this simple illustration. As children, our parents gave us rules to keep us safe. They likely said, "Always hold my hand when crossing the street." Our parents made that rule to protect us from real danger. But as we got older, we no longer needed to hold Mom or Dad's hand. Did the danger go away? No. Instead, we learned to look at the traffic in front of us and cross the road safely. After all, it would seem odd if a healthy 30-year-old man still needed to hold his mother's hand to cross the street. Likewise, mature Christians don't need a rule for every situation. Instead, we look at each situation and consider Bible principles. If no Bible law is directly involved, then we use our Bible-trained conscience to make a good decision. For example, consider the use of symbols or customs that may have roots in false religion. In our vast organization that spans 240 lands, can you imagine how many different symbols and customs our brothers encounter? How can we make good decisions about the use of a certain symbol or custom? Well, here are 3 basic principles to consider. Number 1, would Jehovah be offended by this? At 2 Corinthians 6:17, Jehovah gives us clear direction. Therefore, get out from among them and separate yourselves, says Jehovah, and quit touching the unclean thing, and I will take you in. This principle emphasizes that Christians must stay far away from any symbol or custom related to false religion or spiritism. Number 2, how would this affect others in the congregation? Romans 14:19 and 21 remind us, so then, let us pursue the things making for peace and the things that build one another up. It is best not to eat meat or drink wine or do anything over which your brother stumbles. Even if a symbol or custom isn't wrong in itself, we need to consider how others in the congregation might view it. We would never want our actions to offend others needlessly. At the same time, as mature Christians, we respect the right that others have to make their own decisions based on their Bible-trained conscience. Number 3, how is this symbol or custom viewed by people in my culture or community? The Bible principle? 1 Corinthians 9:20, 21, and 23. To the Jews, I became as a Jew in order to gain Jews. To those under law, I became as under law, though I myself am not under law, in order to gain those under law. To those without law, I became as without law, although I am not without law toward God, but under law toward Christ, in order to gain those without law. But I do all things for the sake of the good news, in order to share it with others. The principle here is that we take into account how others feel about and view matters. Knowing how a certain symbol or custom is viewed in our own country or community is very important. Something that is very offensive in our land or culture may be viewed as completely innocent in another land or culture. Back in 1976, the Awake magazine posed this important question: what should be a Christian's attitude toward shapes and designs that have at some time or place been connected with false religion? This question may be involved when you choose wallpaper for your home, the print on a necktie or dress, or jewelry such as cufflinks, a bracelet, or a necklace to purchase. It may even be of concern regarding the design of lamps or dishes. You might wonder, is this design somehow connected with idolatrous worship? Then it offered this key thought. Many times a design will change in significance according to location and time. A certain shape may have a particular meaning to an observer at one time and place, but a different meaning to an observer elsewhere or in another age. So the Christian needs to be primarily concerned about what? Not what a certain symbol or design possibly meant thousands of years ago, or how it might be thought of on the other side of the world, but what it means now to most people where he lives. The article gave examples of common symbols that at one time were associated with false worship, but no longer have that meaning today. The examples mentioned included the heart, the fleur-de-lis, and the pomegranate. The article concluded with this practical advice. With so many different designs having been used in false worship, if a person went to the trouble and took the time, he might find an undesirable connection with almost every design he sees around him. But why do that? Would it not be needlessly upsetting? And is that the best use of one's time and attention? If a particular design or shape is commonly understood where you live to be a religious symbol, there is good reason to avoid it. Or if many people locally have become especially sensitive about some shape or decoration, the mature Christian might choose to shun it so as to avoid needless disturbance or stumbling. Those are helpful principles, aren't they? The same is true with customs. The way they are viewed can change over time. The Awake of January 8, 2000 featured an article entitled, "A Balanced View of Popular Customs." It observed, customs have been profoundly influenced by religion. Many, in fact, arose from old superstitions and non-biblical religious ideas. The article mentions several examples. Some of these customs may have had false religious origins, yet the article noted, over the years, however, the religious associations have faded, and today these practices and customs have no religious significance. Then it asked, so what should a Christian primarily be concerned about? Although there may be reason to examine the origin of a particular custom, in some cases it is more important to consider what the custom means to people at the time and in the place where one now lives. If a custom has unscriptural or otherwise negative connotations during a particular period of the year or under certain circumstances, Christians may wisely decide to avoid it at that time. What are some common examples today? What about covering your mouth when yawning? In ancient times, some people did so because they thought it would prevent one's soul from escaping. But what about today? Today, it is commonly viewed as a way of being polite and does not have a spiritistic meaning. What about wedding rings? Some historians claim wedding rings have pagan roots. Yet today, most people simply view wedding rings as a sign that the wearer is married. An example that illustrates the importance of timing is string lights. Many Bethelites here at Warwick enjoy putting white string lights on their balconies as decorations, except during November and December. Why not then? Because in this region of the world, string lights are closely associated with Christmas. a false religious holiday. So our Bethel family avoids even the appearance of participating in that false religious celebration. Another example is toasting or clinking glasses. For years, Jehovah's Witnesses have avoided this practice because it may have had origins in false religion. However, now, in most places, toasting or clinking glasses no longer has any religious association. It is viewed simply as a friendly custom. Therefore, after prayerful consideration, the governing body has concluded that there is no need to make a rule regarding toasting and clinking glasses. Each Christian should use the principles that we have discussed in this update and his own Bible-trained conscience to make a good decision. What does this mean? Are we saying that toasting is okay now at all times and in every situation? Of course not. We are simply saying that there is no need to make a rule. Each Christian will need to use Bible principles to make a good decision in each instance. Since there are so many different situations that could arise in the 240 lands where Jehovah's people serve, what a blessing that Jehovah has given us these Bible principles. Let's briefly review them. First, and most important, we love Jehovah and always want to please Him. So we might ask ourselves, would Jehovah be offended by the toast? For example, is it associated with a religious or nationalistic holiday? Or is it a simple expression or gesture promoting friendship or health? Second, we love our brothers and sisters and would not want to needlessly offend them. We respect their feelings and their conscience. And third, because we love Jehovah and people, we are sensitive to how any custom is viewed in our own local culture or community. Well, what have we learned? Jehovah doesn't burden us with endless rules. Instead, He lovingly provides principles in His Word. These help us make wise, thoughtful, and loving decisions regarding symbols and customs. We're also reminded to respect the conscience of others and avoid imposing our personal views on others. Jehovah has given us freedom, and we respect the freedom that others have too. By applying Bible principles with love and discernment, we remain united and avoid stumbling others. What is our earnest prayer? It is just as the Apostle Paul expressed at Ephesians 4:13, that we all attain to the oneness of the faith and of the accurate knowledge of the Son of God, to being a full-grown man, attaining the measure of stature that belongs to the fullness of the Christ. Brothers and sisters, please know that we love you all very much. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
We'll now give our attention to the Congregation Bible Study, which will be conducted by Brother Tim Shaw, and his reader will be Brother Brent Ellison.
We'd like to welcome all of you here tonight to our Congregation Bible Study. Now, last week, do you remember what Jehovah said to the first angel? He said, "Let us make man." Well, what would that man be able to do? He would be able to speak. He would be able to laugh, pray. Why, he would even be able to look after the earth. But who? Who would that first man be? Well, let's find out by reading lesson number 2, entitled, God Made the First Man and Woman. Brother Ellison, please.
Jehovah planted a garden in a place called Eden. The garden was full of flowers, trees, and animals. Then God made the first man, Adam, out of dust and blew into his nostrils. Do you know what happened? The man became a living person. Jehovah put Adam in charge of the garden, and God told him to give names to all the animals. Jehovah gave Adam an important role. He told Adam, "You can eat fruit from all the trees except for one special tree. If you eat fruit from that tree, you will die." Later, Jehovah said, "I am going to make a helper for Adam." He made Adam fall into a deep sleep, and then God used one of Adam's ribs to create a wife for Adam. Her name was Eve. Adam and Eve became the first family. How did Adam feel about his new wife? Adam was so happy that he said, "Look at what Jehovah made from my rib. At last, this is someone like me." Jehovah told Adam and Eve to have children and fill the earth. He wanted them to enjoy working together to make the whole earth a paradise or beautiful park, just like the Garden of Eden. But things did not work out that way. Why not? We will learn more in the next chapter.
Friends, what work did Jehovah give Adam? Oh, let's get our young brother here. Okay.
To name all the animals.
Oh, very good. I like that. Sister Geiger.
So here, Jehovah had given them a commission to fill that earth and to expand it. And you think about nowadays when we're working outside, how good we feel, how much we enjoy it, because that's what we were designed to do.
Thank you for bringing that out. Let's get Alex, please.
I appreciate how Jehovah gave Adam a measure of authority, that of being over the animals. And then as verse 19 says, he watched carefully to see how Adam used his authority. And then afterwards, he gave Adam a much greater authority, that of being a family head for another human. So we can see how Adam immediately put to work what he had learned. He named all the animals, and then he named her woman. So young brothers like me can learn a lesson like this when we're given a measure of authority. The lessons we learned from having it can benefit us later on if we apply ourselves to being responsible now.
Thank you for bringing that out. Next question. What would happen to Adam and Eve if they ate from the tree that God said they should not eat from? Sister, please.
They would grow old and die, and not to mention their disobedience would affect their descendants.
Absolutely, absolutely. Sister, please.
So the tree itself wasn't that it was poison, but it was the act of disobeying Jehovah. They didn't listen to Jehovah. He told them not to eat from that tree. So that tree represented obedience and life.
Thank you, my dear sister. And our sister here.
When Jehovah, he's such a loving God, and he demonstrated that by the way he cared for Adam and Eve's physical needs. In Genesis 1, verse 29, Jehovah gave them so many options of trees to eat from, but sadly, Adam and Eve were very selfish and did not appreciate everything that Jehovah had given them. So this teaches us that we want to be grateful for what we have and appreciate every little thing that Jehovah has given us.
Very nice. Good job, sister. Let's take our Bibles and go to Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to consider verses 27 through 29. And because our meeting is abbreviated tonight, we won't read those, but we want you to look those over because we have a question for you. What is the connection between those scriptures and our artwork? What would you say? Let's have our brother here. Yes.
Well, the thing that stands out to me the most at the very end was that everything was very good. And we see what Jehovah gave to all creation, especially Adam and Eve, a beautiful place to live, an exciting work to do, companionship in which to do it. Everything was very good.
Okay, very nice job. Let's get our sister here, please.
We see the creation of Eve, his wife. Jehovah didn't make Eve from dust like he did Adam. Actually, he chose something from Adam that now we know would regrow again, the rib. And the side note says that actually blood is produced in the marrow of the rib bones. So when Jehovah said, when Adam said, this is flesh of my flesh and bones of my bone, is actually literal because that's where she was taken from. So what a beautiful gift Jehovah gave him.
Absolutely. Thank you. We appreciate that comment very much. Now, what does this account teach you personally about Jehovah? What does it teach you? Let's begin with our brother here on the aisle.
One of the really key scriptures found in Genesis 1 is verse 28. Here God says, "Be fruitful, become many, and fill the earth." This is the purpose of life. Many people search for it in yoga, in meditation, and this and that. But it's here in the Bible, in the very first page. You don't even have to dig further. So this is the most beautiful thing about Jehovah, because he gives all the necessary information right there, page 1. Amazing.
Thank you for sharing that, brother. Appreciate it very much. Let's get our brother here on the aisle, please. Yes. Scott?
I appreciate that Jehovah recognizes our limitations. I noticed that Eve was made as a helper for Adam. Even though Adam was perfect, Jehovah knew that Adam wasn't going to be able to cover everything by himself. He would need assistance, he would need guidance, another way to look at things. And I appreciate that Jehovah helps us as well as husbands to have a wife that helps out, to help us to be able to handle things and to recognize things that we might not be looking at the right way, but that we can continue to have that help and assistance from our great compliments.
All right, appreciate that. And let's get our brother at the end of this, our first section here on the aisle.
It really demonstrates how Jehovah is so thoughtful. He didn't bring mankind on a barren earth. He didn't wait for man to see the grass grow or the trees grow, but Jehovah is so thoughtful. He created man in an environment of great beauty, waterfalls that we see in this picture, of animals of all different colors and shapes and sizes, beautiful trees and flowers. Our God is so thoughtful. He thinks about these things that will make us happy. That's the reason we're part of this organization, because God is so thoughtful in bringing us into a family that loves each other.
What a lovely comment. We appreciate that so much, brother. But now, how might this material be applied to our congregations or either our families? How might we apply this material to the family or to our congregation? Sister, would you help us out, please?
Jehovah gave humans a responsibility, and he trusts them with it. So when we have assignments to take care of our family or to take care of our congregation, if we tap into Jehovah's Holy Spirit and we look for his guidance, he has made us to be successful.
Oh, I like that comment. Very good. Our brother here, please.
We live in a world and a society that's very technology driven. There's a lot, you can learn a lot about animals on TV and things like that, but Jehovah gave us the world to be into with the animals, and that was what his purpose was. So with our children, it's important that we take the time to bring them outside, to have them engage with the things that Jehovah created, have them notice what he created, because just by default, it won't happen naturally now.
Thank you for that expression. We appreciate that. And let's get, we see a hand here on, yes, behind you, brother. There was a hand up there. There she go.
We've learned that Jehovah does not withhold anything good from us. And so in turn, we learn from Jehovah that we should not withhold anything good from our brothers and sisters, but show them our love and our unity and have pleasure in taking care of one another.
Thank you very much. Well, next we're going to consider our introduction to Section 2. Brother Ellison, please.
Why did Jehovah bring about a flood that destroyed the world of that time? Early in human history, a battle began, the battle between good and evil. Some individuals, such as Adam, Eve, and their son Cain, chose the side of evil. A few others, such as Abel and Noah, chose the side of good. Most people became so bad that Jehovah brought an end to that wicked world. This section will help us to learn that Jehovah sees which side we choose and that he will never allow the evil to conquer the good.
Thank you, my brother. Now, what individuals are we going to discuss going forward and why? Let's get our brother on the aisle.
We're going to discuss Adam, Eve, Cain, who chose bad, chose evil. With all the evidence Jehovah has provided, we too, we see what's happened, and so we look at evidence, we ask questions. Do we come from monkeys? Is that taught all around the world? This is who you are. You're an animal. You come from it. But when we look at evidence, we see we don't. Jehovah created us. He made us. He gave us minds. So, and then here we are together, all of us, honoring, loving. We come together speaking of all these things. Jehovah has given us the truth. And now we are choosing. What do we choose?
All right. Thank you, brother. And who else are we going to be discussing going forward here? Sister here, please.
We see that we have Adam, Eve, and Cain. They also point out Abel and Noah. And so we have this good versus evil and what side they chose, where these humans align themselves with. So we're going to get to see this play out and how that affects us.
Nice job. Appreciate that, sister. But now, what are the key lessons in this section? Let's take one at a time. Who'd like to take the first one? What are the key lessons? Cherie.
That we should be peaceable, not violent like the devil and his followers.
Excellent. Second one. Let's have our Sister Garcia.
If we listen to God and obey him as Noah did, we can live forever in happiness.
Excellent. And the last one, our sister here, please.
Jehovah sees everything that happens. Righteousness brings joy to his heart, but wickedness makes him sad.
Oh, I like that. You know, friends, when I went over this lesson, it made me think about all of you here tonight, because you're peaceable. And you're here tonight because you go out of your way to listen to God. And because you do all those things, it brings joy to God's heart. And we want to commend each and every one of you, dear friends, here tonight. But now, what do we see depicted in our artwork regarding early human history? What's depicted there? Let's get Brother Koscheck.
It teaches us our potential here. Absolute peace between the animals and themselves, absolute peace between humans and animals.
this is the way it was meant to be. But it was a beautiful scenario, so it can be this way again.
Very nice, Brother Kosacek. Thank you very much. Our dear brother here.
And we're also reminded that Jehovah's never going to allow the evil to conquer the good. So even though Noah was outnumbered, Jehovah made sure he made it through.
Nice. Good job, brother. Our dear sister here.
So we see this is the picture of Noah and his family loading the animals onto the ark. But we know that this wasn't an easy task. They worked very hard to please Jehovah and to obey him. And likewise, if we do the same today, he will spare our lives as well.
Wonderful. Wonderful comment, sister. Excellent. But now, when you went over this material, did you find that artwork really helped to bring this account to life for you? We can get an expression on that. Did it bring it to life for you? What would you say? Sister Shaw.
Yes, I love this artwork because it puts us right there. It makes us feel like we're there helping them. And the miraculous help from Jehovah bringing all those animals on board.
Excellent. Good job, Sister Shaw. Sister White.
And seeing Noah and his family with all those animals there, you can imagine the sounds, maybe even some of the smells, and maybe some of the things they've seen. Maybe that wasn't an easy assignment for them, but they were able to be obedient. And you see in the picture, they all have smiles on their faces, so they were happy in their assignment, and they were able to joyfully obey Jehovah and still carry out what needed to be done.
Excellent comment. Thank you so much. Let's get Brother Lafdani in the back, in the second section, please, on the aisle.
And it did really make me reflect on the story through the eyes of a child. I had to make sure that there were 4 men and 4 women in the picture. I had to look very closely at all the animals and see that they were paired up with another one. But this artwork is so artfully done, not artistically done, but artfully done in a teaching way that it really draws our children's attention to the details exactly as told in the scriptures.
Well said. Thank you, Mark. Let's get our sister here in the aisle.
The Bible also connects the account of Noah and the flood with our last days. It was the end of a world at that time, and we're living at the end of this system. So it involved hard work, maybe some pain and distress, but they're all there working hard and they survived. So even though we might be going through some distressing times, if we're obedient and do like Noah and his family, we will survive this system as well.
Good job, Tony. Appreciate that very much. Now, finally, let's consider Lesson 3, Adam and Eve disobeyed God. And brothers, would you please bring up the artwork?
One day, when Eve was by herself, a snake spoke to her. It said, "Is it true that God won't let you eat from all of the trees?" Eve said, "We can eat from all of the trees, except for one. If we eat the fruit from that tree, we will die." The snake said, "You will not die. In fact, if you eat from it, you will be like God." Was that true? No, it was a lie. But Eve believed it. The more Eve looked at the fruit, the more she wanted it. She ate the fruit and gave some to Adam. He knew that they would die if they disobeyed God. But Adam ate the fruit anyway. Later that day, Jehovah spoke to Adam and Eve. He asked them why they had disobeyed him. Eve blamed the snake, and Adam blamed Eve. Because Adam and Eve had disobeyed him, Jehovah put them out of the garden. To make sure that they would never go back in, he put angels and a sword of fire at the entrance. Jehovah said that the one who lied to Eve would also be punished. It was not really the snake that spoke to Eve. Jehovah did not make snakes that could talk. It was a bad angel who made the snake speak. He did this to trick Eve. That angel is called Satan the devil. In the future, Jehovah will destroy Satan so that he cannot keep tricking people into doing bad things.
Thank you, Brother Ellison. Now, why did Eve eat the fruit? We have a young brother in the second section, front row, please.
The snake said, "You will not die." Eve believed it. She ate the fruit and gave some to Adam.
Good job. Thank you, brother. Sister, yes, on the aisle.
In harmony with that comment, Eve really did not have loyal love for Jehovah. She was not attached to him, despite all of the wonderful things that Jehovah had done for her rather. So instead, she gave into that temptation that the devil put in front of her. She was willing to sacrifice her integrity to Jehovah and sacrifice everything for this piece of fruit.
All right, thank you, sister. What happened to Adam and Eve after they disobeyed Jehovah? What happened? Let's get Sister DeFrancis, please.
Well, we can see here from the picture, because they did disobey, Jehovah kicked them out of the Garden of Eden, and we can see the consequences of that today.
Excellent. And who is Satan the devil? Brother, please.
Satan is a bad angel who tries to trick and manipulate us into doing anything that would separate us from serving Jehovah, and it doesn't stop there. In John 8:44, it says that he's a liar and the father of a lie.
Excellent. Well done. Now, what does this account teach us about Jehovah? Let's get our sister. Yes. Yes.
It teaches us that Jehovah gives us free will. He doesn't force anyone to do anything. He lays out the results, though, of the decision that we might make, but he leaves it up to us.
Good job, Lori. Thank you. And Adam, please.
When you research universal sovereignty, it all boils down to love. All Jehovah wants is individuals who think on their own. We all have forget what it's called, a free will. He just wants things with free will to love him, and that's what it always boils down to, and that's what the universal sovereignty comes down to, and that's where Adam and Eve and Satan failed. They failed the test of love. They chose to be independent. They knew better. They all knew what Jehovah wanted, and so that's where we're at. So that's kind of what it just boils down to. It's all about love, you could say.
Thank you, Brother Geiger. And how might this material be applied in the family or in the congregation? Brother? Yes.
It's interesting that in a previous lesson we learned that Jehovah gave Adam and Eve, or Adam, a command. Well, here Satan minimized the command and turned into a mere statement when he asked Eve the question, did God really say? So in the family, we know what Jehovah's commands are, but maybe as family has our parents, we may minimize it in order to have our kids like us more, or to be more in tune to what they're dealing with as young people. But never do we want to do that when it comes to things that Jehovah directs for us.
Enjoyed the way you frame your comment. Thank you very much, brother. And Brent, we want to thank you for your excellent reading tonight. We want to thank all of you for your fine comments. But now next week, we're going to learn two things. We're going to learn what to do when we feel angry, and we're also going to learn why Jehovah decided to bring the flood. So we look forward to seeing all of you here next week at the same time. And thank you all very much. We'll turn our meeting back over to our chairman.
Thank you, Brother Shaw. Thank you, Brother Ellison, for your fine preparation. Thank you very much for that. So what did we learn this evening? Did we see the thread of discernment woven throughout our meeting tonight? We look back on some of the things we've learned. With Brother Clegg, he did such an excellent job of talking about wise principles about the use of alcohol. And something that I thought was an interesting point he brought out about the difference between use and abuse of alcohol. Interesting points to meditate upon. Then through our apply ourselves to the field ministry portion, we got to see the discernment that it took for our brother involved in a Bible study to see a problem, use principles to identify it, and then help our students to make progress in areas where they struggle. Finally, we also saw alcohol highlighted again, but this time in a context not just so much what we do personally, but how our decisions and actions with regard to that subject can affect others, whether or not we choose to serve it in a social gathering or setting. Wonderful principles for us to think about. And then, of course, our governing body update with Brother Lett brought forth even more principles on how the progressive nature, not making rules, and so many things that we can highlight throughout the governing body update, but we just see the consistent nature of the governing body in adapting, helping us to appreciate the use of Bible principles in our personal life. We think, too, of our congregation Bible study. We love how this publication is directed at our young ones, but we get so much out of it on a personal level. It's such a privilege to get to hear your friends' comments. What do we learn next week at our meeting? Next week is going to highlight a lot about how to deal with adversity, specifically strengthening ourselves to deal with persecution. Our Treasures from God's Word is going to really highlight how we can build ourselves up to deal with persecutions when we inevitably face them. We'll also have student parts. We'll have the reading by Brother Kyle Hutchings. We'll have starting a conversation by Sister Addison DeFrancis and assisted by Beth Boulay. The conversation will be handled by Michaela Rodriguez and Cinnamon Beam. And the starting a conversation will be handled by Alicia Olvera and Sister George, Sarah. And then our talk will be handled by Brother Logan Morales. So we look forward to seeing everyone next week. In no time. So thank you, friends, very much for a wonderful meeting. We'll now conclude with song number 40, To Whom Do We Belong? And our prayer will be given by Brother Gregory Holcomb.